Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Renee from Tripawds, and we're here today to meet Jaclin, mom to Ralph and Kennie, the amazing dogs who are painting and helping Tripawds with our auction for the third year in a row. They have a very special story to tell. We are also here with Natasha, mom to Schultz and Wilhelmina and Angel Kaiserin, the original painting shepherds. Natasha is the primary organizer, founder, cheerleader, the spirit behind the Tripawds Dog Art Auction. So we're super happy to have both of you here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say, I remember when I first found Jaclin and Ralphie and Kennie. So it was the second year of the auction, and it was the same year that I found that Peekaboo started to paint, a Peekaboo who's blind. And I remember being really happy that we had, at that time, it was just Ralphie that you had. I remember being so happy we had a deaf dog and a blind dog, because it all went into the sort of theme that I wanted to show, that dogs that are different, especially able or different, can still do amazing things. And most of the people on here have three-legged dogs, but it's the same philosophy.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had no idea that dogs could paint, much less dogs who are differently abled. I did not know. This was all new to me. So Natasha, when you introduced us to Jaclin, I was like, wow, tell me more. So Jaclin, tell us about them, Ralphie and Kennie, and how do you communicate with deaf dogs in the first place, and then how do you teach them to paint?
There are certain behaviors that I teach puppies when I first get them. It kind of sets the foundation for future training. You want to have a deaf dog looking at you, so you capture behaviors. If you see that the puppy looking at you from across the room, you give a thumbs up. That's your yes marker. Even jazz hands to show excitement or to convey it even.
Yes.
And then the tiny treat. You'd never forget the tiny treat, because that's the reward for looking. And because if the dog isn't looking at you, you can't communicate. So you're looking for that freely offered look so that you can be in communication. Then you can also capture behaviors. A lot of luring. Take the treat and you can lure the dog into position. And then as the dog learns that, then you'll add the sign. So you would take the treat and you would say, put the treat at the nose and then bring it back up over the top of the head. And the dog would puppies naturally follow that behavior anyway. All puppies typically do. So you would just, as a puppy went to sit, you would give your yes marker and the tiny treat. And then once a puppy is doing that consistently, then you add your sign. And my dog's sign is this for sit. And that's no lick.
That's my dog's sign too. So, I mean, really, you're taking basic training with these dogs,
exactly.
But you're using hand signals, not verbal signals.
Exactly. I had a trainer over 20 years ago. I had a border collie mix, and she was a puppy. And that trainer had told me, teach both verbal and visual, because one day that dog may go deaf. And that puppy did go deaf at age 12, and she transitioned seamlessly into a silent world. She was just connected that way. She was more watchful, looking for the signs. And we had 5 more years together. So it was wonderful. I almost think that teaching a visual language, you can fine tune it a little bit more. You can have more distinct, or maybe the visual signs you use can be so much different, so they don't get confused by some of the words we say. It doesn't sometimes we add too many words when we're asking a dog to do something. And this way you're just showing the one request: sit or lie down or turn circles.
Do you think that deaf dogs are actually better trained dogs than hearing dogs because your communication is so precise?
I think they could be. I think there's so many people that don't realize the level of training you can do with a deaf dog. People don't have to do the training at the level we do. You know, they want them to be a companion, and that's what a lot of people, and these guys are companions, of course, but the reason that we started trick training was to show people what was possible, because people still will euthanize these dogs just because they're deaf. They don't understand them, and that's tragic, really. That's tragic.
That's even worse than euthanizing a dog for missing a leg. I mean, that is, you have a
people. I think sometimes too, you have to have a foundation of a sound temperament, and there are breeders out there that aren't breeding ethically. So you need that sound foundation for a genetically sound temperament. But it's so easy to blame a dog's negative behavior on the fact that they're deaf, where you might need to back up a step and say, well, maybe it's more genetic. So, but for 8 years, I've tried to help convince people that these dogs are worth it, to give them a try. Just give them the opportunity. They don't have to euthanize them.
Oh, absolutely. And it just seems to me like a lot of the training issues that people have with dogs are because of our poor verbal communication skills with dogs. And I read somewhere, if you can imagine landing on a planet where everybody spoke a language that you didn't understand and you were the only one, I mean, imagine what that would be like. And that's what hearing dogs go through when we're talking to them. And so
yes.
I think that everybody could learn a lot from trainers like you. So I really appreciate you being out there.
You know, I'm not a professional. It's just I've lived with a number of dogs, and Ralphie was my first deaf puppy. So, you know, the first year I had him, I did not share that he was deaf. I shared his trick training for the first year on Facebook, and I was always kind of off camera, so you didn't see me communicate. And I talked to my handle on YouTube is She Talks to Deaf Dogs, because I talk to him all the time. So, but he,
I did notice, I did notice you are talking to them when you're painting, because it did occur to me that they can't hear you.
Exactly. I talk to, and I've signed to my blind dog. So what can I say? You know? But Ralphie was the one, after he earned his champion trick dog title, he held a little, he told his people that he was deaf. So I wanted people to see the dog and not see a perceived defect, because
love it.
They're fine. They're perfectly fine. Just focus on what they have, not on what they don't have.
Exactly.
Yeah, which applies to the three-legged dogs.
Exactly.
The same. That's exactly why we started trick training when I did it with Kaiserin. It was to show that, you know, because she wasn't allowed to compete in obedience anymore because dogs with legs weren't allowed. And so I wanted to show like what she could do. And the trick titles are amazing.
They are.
Yeah, they are. Now, trick titles like that, I should have you two on for a whole other podcast about that, because that is a whole world that Natasha introduced us to. Like, I didn't know that existed.
Yes, it is so much fun. It's interactive play. If you do it right, it's just interactive play that your dog will really look forward. Mine do. All of my dogs love to trick train, because they get little treats and just it's play. It's just play.
Yeah, it's fun. You're building a bond. You're just becoming closer to them. So when it comes to painting, how did you teach Ralphie and then Kennie how to paint?
That starts with first teaching them to carry an item. I can't teach my blind dog to paint because she won't carry. She will, but she doesn't enjoy it. So we don't do that. She doesn't enjoy it, so we don't do it. But you first teach them to carry, then you teach them to hold the brush. And you give your rewards, and you're good dog. And their sign for carry is this. It's not, I don't use all ASL. I make up a lot of my own visual things. So, but this is carry. And then we did the touch. so that they would touch with their nose, without the brush first, touch with your nose, target different hands. And then you load the brush and you get them to touch that brush to the easel, or to the canvas.
Mhm.
So, and then you try and work at longer durations. But I think one thing too is, a mistake sometimes that's made is we try to train too long. Sometimes just keeping it brief, the dogs will look forward to it the next time. And maybe if you do it a couple times a day or a few times a day, rather than thinking you're going to put a half hour of training in. At least that's with mine.
How many minutes do each of you spend on training? Like on average, maybe a day or a week?
There's times that I go a long time without doing it, but we can jump right back into it. How about you, Natasha?
Well, we just finished our, both Wilhelmina and Schultz just got their champion trick titles. So we were doing, yeah, we just a few weeks ago. So we were doing like a lot. Like we were doing a lot with me filming the tricks. But normally we don't do tricks all the time, a few times a week. I actually found as soon as we got the titles, I send off the videos, and the next day they're looking at me like, well, we've been filming stuff every day. We've been doing all sorts of stuff. What are we gonna do today? So they got really used to doing a lot.
That was the thing with Ralphie. When we went for his master's title, we took 6 days and we repeated all 101 tricks. We started all of them. And so we did just this power training thing, and we got through it, and he got his master's champion trick title. But Kenny needs to go for hers yet. We just haven't done that. It's finding the time,
Oh yeah, it's a lot of time. It's not, I find it's not as bad to train the dogs to do the tricks as it is to video all the darn things.
Exactly. Having to edit, the editing.
Yes, and then put them all together. Yeah.
I think that's why your 2 painting videos you always make they're so good compared to some that I've done. I mean, I find the video really hard to do, and it's especially because Nellie's a total beginner still, so I have a tough time with it.
Oh, I ended up putting up a one of the video cameras that records constantly, and I would just take clips of that so that I could see what the progress was and how they were doing. So, because I'm terrible sometimes at having to set up the camera or the phone and do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Well, speaking of work, tell us about the painting. So you have the auction painting. I see it behind you, Hidden Faces.
Yep, it's right there.
Tell us what made you think of that, and how did you go about creating it?
Wow. The name of the painting actually came from Ralphie's and Kenny's Facebook following. One of the people there came up with the name, and it was perfect. And when they first painted that, I did not see the faces. I had taken it into work and I showed coworkers, and someone said, "Hey, that's a dog." And then and then Natasha found the other dog.
I found another dog, and I found 2 walruses as well.
Awesome.
It's funny because Kenny's really starting to come into this what do you see type painting things. She painted the dog, the purple on it, so she painted the dogs, and that's really the first time she's done so much with the painting like that. We have fun with that game. It's a lot of fun.
It looks like fun. I mean, the painting is fun. How long did it take from beginning to end?
Oh my gosh. I really couldn't say, because we thought we were done at one point. People said, no, you need more color. And if we hadn't added more color, then we wouldn't have gotten those pictures that Kenny did. And Ralphie too, the combination of the two. But it was over the course of months, I think, really. So yeah. And this is their first, I can't think of the name of it again. Where you perceive, the human eye perceives things that are familiar in a picture. So but that's it's fun.
Pareidolia?
Pareidolia. Yeah. Periodolia or something like Daniel
That's it.
Daniel Newman had shared the name of that, and I didn't realize that there was actually a name for it. So
That is cool. We have that information on the paintings auction page at auction.tripawds.com. So Jaclin, you had mentioned off camera that you have a little something for the highest bidder, I think you said, for the painting.
it looks like my screen's locked up. Oh, there we are. We're back. My screen locked up.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that you have a little something cooking up that you've created for the painting if it hits a certain amount or for the highest bidder or
Yeah.
something. Tell us what you're thinking.
If it goes over $300, Ralphie has painted a grooming apron. So let me grab it here.
Nice.
You can see. These are the pocket. He's painted the 2 pockets on here.
That is so pretty.
It's a grooming apron. So if he's got a lot of followers who are Old English sheepdog people. So there's always dog hair.
Oh,
lots of dog
yes.
hair.
I have a shepherd. Natasha has 2.
Oh, I didn't know you have a shepherd. Nice.
We know about dog hair.
Yeah. Yep, lots of hair.
Well, that's cool. Well, yeah, let's cross our fingers. Right now the painting is at, let's see, $230. So we have just a little ways to go, and it's open for bidding. So we'll definitely put a link to that piece of art. But Jaclin, I can't thank you enough for being here today. Just want to end this by asking you, what is the one thing you'd like people to know about dogs who are deaf?
They are so much like dogs that can hear. Dogs enter this world not speaking our language, so they have to learn a language anyway. And instead of using voice, we're using sign. And I think people underestimate the potential of these puppies. They don't need to be euthanized if they've been bred for a sound temperament, or if they've just by chance ended up with a sound temperament. You know, they have so much potential, and they can be such loving companions. I don't view it as a defect or a disability, because they can do so much.
They can, and that painting is just one example. Jaclin, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Oh, they can find Ralphie and Kennie at Just Plain Ralphie on Facebook. That's where a lot of his following is. He's also on Instagram at Just Plain Ralphie.
Okay.
He also has a website, justplainralphie.com, where you can find some of his. There's like a flip book type thing you can look through to see the different things he's done. We need to update it, but he and Kennie. So Kenny's a big part too, and I need to update it with more of her. So
that'll happen. We can't wait. Very
Thank you
cool.
so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thanks for all you do to help the auction. It's a huge success because of people like you. So we really appreciate it. And
thank you for letting us participate. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, yes. Hey, Natasha, I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for doing another one of these.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Thanks so much.